Who are the LA Kings' top 5 players right now? We discuss and debate that on this episode of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Visit FanDuel's app today to start planning your future bets now. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, also one of the co-hosts of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show now in its 20th season, covering the NHL, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. We have an interesting topic to discuss on today's show, and shout out to the boys over at Locked On Red Wings for the inspiration for this one. But all of the Locked On hosts for each of the 32 NHL teams have been asked to submit a list of the top players on their team. Once that list is compiled, all the hosts will collectively vote on what players will make up the current top 100 players in the NHL. It's a fun idea, should generate some fun conversation. Be interesting to see what the other hosts from around the NHL think about what LA Kings players could rank in the top 100, where they would be ranked as well. Interesting to find that out. So we are going to talk about the top 5 LA Kings players that I have submitted to this list. Now, I think the key thing to remember right off the bat is this is the list of the top 5 Kings players right now. This is not a debate of, what they've done in the past. This is not, like a Hall of Fame thing. What you've done in the past, not to discount it, but that doesn't really equate to who are the top 5 players on your roster right now. And of course, there's still room for debate and opinion. And, I think stats should be a part of the equation, but certainly it's not going to be something as black and white as just picking who your top 5 points producers are. Position certainly, I think, plays a big factor in this as well. You could certainly argue that if goalie is the most important position on your team and you have a good goalie, maybe that automatically makes him the number 1 guy on your team. So there's an argument to be made there. And while I'm ultimately submitting my list for the LA Kings top 5 players right now, I certainly recognize that your list could be different. I will say I do feel pretty confident in the 5 players I've picked. What order they should be ranked in, I think, is very much up for debate. And you will have your opportunity, if you'd like to get involved, to have your say on this as well, of course, with our weekly fan feedback show. So I think it makes sense to reveal this top 5 in reverse order. We will go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, starting with the number 5 player right now on the LA Kings roster, and I am going with Quinton Byfield. Now, we all hope that Q will move up this list as soon as maybe this season to going into next season. If we do this again next year, I would not be surprised, and I certainly would be hopeful that maybe he's certainly back on this list or even higher. And certainly last year, Quinton Byfield showed some flashes of absolute brilliance, highlighted by that 6 goals in 6-game stretch he had in March. He had 4 game-winning goals, some spectacular overtime game winners, and he did this all while he was switching to a new position, a position that is clearly a very important one, as being one of the top 6 centers, or one of the top 2 centers, a top 6 forward. He was already that, but I think that his progression, switching to a new position with added responsibilities, overall, I think he took a good step forward in taking on those new responsibilities, in playing a position that's natural to him, but still never playing it at the NHL level. And I think for many of us that have preached patience when it comes to Quinton Byfield, I think we would all admit now is about the time to see more. I'm not saying Quinton Byfield has to be the best player on the Kings roster next season, but I think he does need to be one of the really key pieces. And I think you can make the argument that if he's a top 5 player on the team now, which I'm saying he is, Doesn't that automatically make him one of the key pieces on the team? I don't know that he is that yet. I think he is projected to be, but I don't know that he has been to this point. I do think he's close, but I think there still needs to be another step taken. And I think that step hopefully will be taken this coming season. He's had a full year to get acclimated to playing that center position at the NHL, and he needs to start the season well and carry that on through the full season. He needs to be more consistent. It can't just be flashes of spectacular. That needs to be, we need to see that more often than not. It's not going to be there every night. Nobody's like that for the most part, but his abilities, what he's shown, we know he's got the skill. He's got some spectacular tools, the size, the wingspan, the skating ability. It just needs to be there more consistently. It needs to be a full 82 games or as close as you can. So that's what we need to see from Quinton Byfield going forward. If we do, it's going to be huge for the LA Kings, and certainly he's going to be a top 5 player plus going forward. It is time, though. It feels like I think the expectations, anytime you're the number 2 overall pick in a draft, people expect you to be a franchise player. And I still think there's room for him to be that. Some people thought we should have seen a lot more of it to this point already. I haven't been one of those people. Still a young guy, still learning, moving to positions, but now is the time. Now I think we all expect to see more. And when you just look about, the numbers from last season, he went from 20 to 23 goals. He went from 55 to 54 points. And I think on the surface, you could say, well, there really was an improvement there, or maybe minimal improvement. But I think when you take into account the position moving from wing to center, take into account his defensive game, which I thought was strong going against some of the better centers around the NHL. When you take that into account, and the numbers certainly didn't fall off, some of them increased, some of them right there. To me, that is a clear show that there was a step taken last season. But now there needs to be another step taken this year. His average ice time per game did go up from 16 minutes and 29 seconds the year before to 18 minutes and 37 seconds this year. So he did, with that position change, get more added responsibility, get more ice time. And certainly I think that was the coaching staff seeming to show trust in him. And I thought he did a pretty good job in handling that. Now, Byfield still has some things to improve on. We talked about the consistency. I think face-off circle as well. 44.2% in the face-off circle last year. In his first year in the NHL at center, that needs to improve. But there is obviously time and room to improve, and I'm sure he knows that as well. As far as his postseason, started great. First 2 games, 2 wins, and Q had 2 goals. He was in the middle of it. Then just 1 goal in the final 4 games, and then there was that unfortunate non-clear in game 4. Oilers are able to score, come back and win in overtime. Now, Byfield has to put that behind him, has to try and use that as motivation to be better, because he's a guy who, going forward, the Kings are going to expect to have on the ice in the biggest moments of the biggest games. So he's got to embrace that and show that he can learn from that and move forward. He can't do anything about what happened in the past, but he can use that to help him be better in the future. Hopefully that is going to be the case. So again, Quinton Byfield, a lot of expected this coming season. I feel confident that he can handle it. He can take that next step. But for right now, as far as top 5 players on the Kings right now, I have Quinton Byfield at number 5. We've got number 4 coming up next, as well as 3, 2, and 1. That's how a countdown works. We'll get to that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel's giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. FanDuel currently has Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson as the favorite for MVP. Crown your champion in August. FanDuel has the Bills, Ravens, and Eagles all at plus 700 to win the Super Bowl. Or you could parlay your division winner, dark horse. How about my Steelers at plus 480 to win the AFC North? Visit FanDuel's app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only, and that day is August the 26th. FanDuel, play your game. All right, we continue with our rankings, the top 5 Kings players right now, and checking in at number 4 is Kevin Fiala. Now, Kevin has shown he has elite skills. He has shown that when he's on his game and playing the right way, he can be a very, very good NHL player. Now, his defensive game is never going to be his strong suit, but when he's playing well enough, his defense is good enough. What makes Kevin special is his vision, his shot, his hands. He also has a fearlessness about him that can sometimes get him into trouble, but also can sometimes see him make plays that only elite players can make. We talked about it last year and had some fun with it. Are we going to see good Kevin? Are we going to see bad Kevin? And the good news was we saw a progression. Now, the bad Kevin, which we saw too much early in the season, resulted in him being the only regular Kings player in the lineup that was a minus at the end of the season. He was a -7. But like I said, there was progression. You know, he had a conversation with head coach Jim Hiller, and we saw so much good Kevin at the end of last year that we never even mentioned bad Kevin. Bad Kevin left the building and did not come back. So kind of like Quentin Byfield, the consistency has to be there for Kevin Fiala. But at least with Kevin, you always felt that even when he made mistakes, it was always out of a desire to make a play. Sometimes he was a little too impatient. Sometimes he was his own worst enemy. But I think once he kind of realized that he can't force it, he can't get frustrated. He has to let kind of the play come to him. He stopped taking the bad penalties. He was good at the end of the season. He was a player that the Kings needed. He played the way the Kings needed at the end of the year. We need to see a full season of that. Now, even in a season where he was good Kevin, bad Kevin for half of it, he still put up 35 goals, and that's a career high. And he tied for the team lead in goals with Adrien Kempe. Now, if you're going to compare him and Quentin Byfield, he did have 12 more goals than Byfield. And you know, more about the stats. I just think Fiala is a more dynamic player. I think he, at this point, and of course he's been around longer than Quentin Byfield, but that's why I think that Kevin, it's not purely about the numbers, but I think he is right now, should be ranked ahead of Quentin Byfield, because we know what Kevin can do. We don't know yet what Q can do. My point is Fiala's put up 80 points in the NHL in his career. Now, he only had 60 last year. That was a disappointment. That has to be better. But before that, his first 2 years with the Kings, 72, 73 points. That's where he needs to be. But he's done it. Quentin Byfield has not done it yet. So that's why I think Kevin Fiala gets the advantage. Also led the Kings in power play goals last year with 14, which was a career high. So even though on the whole, I think Kevin Fiala would even admit last year was certainly not one of his better years, it was still good enough to lead the Kings in some important categories. So if Kevin Fiala can put the full season together, again, don't force things. Let the game come to him. If the play's not there, then don't try and force it. Stay out of the penalty box. If we see a lot more good Kevin next year, that is a huge benefit for the LA Kings, because he was certainly not bad last year. And he's skilled. He's elite. And when he's on his game, he can be a really, really good player. And I think he's definitely a Kings top 5 player right now. I have him at number 4. And he could even move up if he can put a full season together. We could see Kevin Fiala move up the list. But right now, I have him, Kevin Fiala, number 4 on my list of top 5 LA Kings players. Checking in at number 3 is the LA Kings captain, Adrien Kempe. Going into his 20th NHL season, still getting it done. Second on the team in points last year with 67, leading the team in assists with 46. The soon-to-be 38-year-old is still a solid two-way player. Finished 8th in the Selke Trophy voting last year as the league's top defensive forward. Won the Lady Byng trophy for a third time. Once again, productive player while playing a clean game. He had a total of 4 penalty minutes all of last season. Tied for the team lead in game-winning goals with 7, 57% in the face-off circle to lead the team, was a plus 14, and played in 81 of 82 games. So he's durable as well. All in all, pretty darn good year for the LA Kings captain. Now, you can argue that a soon-to-be 38-year-old going into his 20th season, being one of your top 3 players on your team right now isn't a great sign as far as the quality and depth of your talent pool on your roster. But that said, Adrien Kopitar isn't exactly your typical 38-year-old player going into his 20th season, at least to this point. Now, could Father Time catch up with Kopi this season and his numbers drop off? Maybe, but my money is on Kopitar still being a effective player, still being a productive player, still being a top 6 forward. Now, it's possible that we could see the transition that we all expect at some point as far as ice time for the center position. It could be Quentin Byfield getting more ice time when it's all said and done this season than Adrien Kopitar. I think it'll still be close, but it's possible that Byfield could transition into that. We'll see, but of course Byfield has to hold up his end of the bargain. I still believe Adrien Kopitar, again, is a key player for the Kings, not just in terms of his production, but the leadership, the experience. And if this is the final season for Kopi, then, and I don't believe he's made that decision yet. Maybe he's got to lean one way or the other, but I would expect either way, he's going into this season highly motivated. He's a very proud guy. He's had a hell of a career, a Hall of Fame career. And if this is the last year, you know he wants to go out on his own terms in terms of what he does production-wise, in terms of what he helps the Kings do from a team standpoint. So, again, if it's his last season and if he knows or not, I expect him to be, again, motivated, productive, and the Adrien Kopitar we have known for the majority of his career. Still a very important player, still a productive player. For me, I got Adrien Kopitar as number 3 on my list of top 5 Kings players right now. As for number 2, we're going to go with Kings goalie Darcy Kuemper. Fantastic last season in his return to LA, a finalist for the Vezina Trophy as the top goalie in the NHL, top 3 in both save percentage and goals against average, 31 wins, tied for 6th in the NHL in just 50 starts. He was, it was one of the best seasons for a Kings goaltender ever, for somebody certainly not named Jonathan Quick. And yes, seeing Kuemper go from a netminder who lost his starting job in Washington to being a top 3 goalie in the league last season, that was not expected. And certainly, yes, give a lot of credit to the defensive team in front of him. But Kuemper pulled his weight as well. I thought he'd be good, maybe even very good, but I didn't think he'd be great. And he was. And yes, he had a good defensive team in front of him. The Kings play a defensive system, but it wasn't just Kuemper benefiting from that and making the saves he's supposed to make. He made big saves. He made spectacular saves, and he absolutely made saves that helped the Kings get wins last season. Now, again, you can make the argument goalie is the number 1 position on the team. If your goalie is top 3 in his position, how could he not be number 1 on your list? I think that's a legitimate argument. Because, look, he's not number 1 on my list. And the guy who is number 1, you could say not even top 10 in his position, where Darcy Kuemper was top 3 in his position last year. So there's a debate to be made. I'll explain why I have somebody else at number 1 in a moment. But Darcy Kuemper, I think, is very deserving of being no lower than number 2. Now, he did face the second fewest shots on goal in the NHL last year, 25.5 per game. So again, yes, you give credit to the team as well. But Darcy Kuemper, again, any way you slice it, was still amazing for the LA Kings. 35 years old. I talk about Father Time catching up with Adrien Kopitar. Maybe we see it catch up with Darcy Kuemper. While I don't expect him to have a Vezina Trophy caliber season again. I still think he's a top 10 goalie. And with that defense in front of him, even if the defense has taken a little bit of a step back, like I said, I still think he's a top 10 goalie. But for right now, Darcy Kuemper, I have him at number 2 on my list of top 5 LA Kings players right now. That brings us to number 1, and maybe who is left out of the top 5. That's next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. You just realized your business needs to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If you've been in a spot where you need to hire right away, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person's a setback, that's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. And now you can speed up the hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. All right, we are at number 1 on the Kings list of top 5 players right now, and I'm pretty sure you've probably figured it out at this point, but the number 1 player for me on the LA Kings is Adrien Kempe. I've said, you talk about Darcy Kuemper, Adrien Kempe. Is there a debate for 1, 2? Yes, Kempe was not one of the top players at his position last season. But I still think that Adrien Kempe is the best all-around player on the LA Kings. Offense, yeah, he definitely provides that. He was tied for the team lead in goals with 35. Third time in his career, he scored 35 or more goals in a season. Also led the team in points for a second straight year with 73. Second consecutive season, he scored 70 or more points. Defensively responsible, yes, he has that. I think Kempe does not get enough credit for his defensive game, in my opinion, around the NHL. I think he's one of the top defensive wingers in the league. We've even seen Kempe on occasion be put out on the ice as a defenseman. And frankly, in those limited moments where he's had to do that, he does not look out of place. He is one of the best finishers on the team, a gifted scorer, great hands, accurate shot. He could be a playmaker, dished out 28 assists last year, second most in his career, has underrated leadership skills. And there are more than a few Kings fans that would like to see Adrien Kempe be the LA Kings' next captain when Adrien Kopitar calls it a career. One of the few Kings that brings attitude on the ice. He plays with swagger and confidence. And like I said, I just think he's the Kings' best all-around player. Darcy Kuemper plays a very important position, and he was great at it last year. But Adrien Kempe does a little bit of everything. He provides the offense. He provides the defense. He can kill penalties. He plays on the power play. He can bring some grit. He's got that attitude. I just think the whole package is why I believe that Adrien Kempe is number 1 on this list. He's the best Kings all-around player, and hopefully he's about to be paid like he's number 1 on the list. Now, I'm a team guy. I'm for the team doing the best they can in terms of spending wisely, but frankly, Adrien Kempe is overdue to get paid, and he deserves it. He's earned it. And I'm sure you know he's a UFA after this coming season, and the Kings cannot let Adrien Kempe leave under any circumstances. They can't let him get to free agency. I very much hope that in the next month or so, I will be reporting on this show that the LA Kings and Adrien Kempe have agreed on a multi-year extension. I am optimistic that will be the case because, frankly, it would be an absolute disaster for anything else to happen. Kempe is homegrown, drafted first round, 29th overall in 1996. He's developed by the Kings, and I don't know, 1996. I think that was wrong. But anyway, he was developed by the Kings. He has fully realized his potential, and somewhat quietly, to most people probably than Kings fans, he's an elite player in the NHL. There's no doubt in my mind, Adrien Kempe right now is the number 1 player on the LA Kings. Now, I said earlier, I don't think there is too much debate as far as who the Kings' top 5 players are on my list. The order, I think, is up for some debate. But I don't feel like I snubbed anyone. I mean, Mikey Anderson is probably underrated even by Kings fans, but his great defensive game is what it is. He doesn't provide you anything offensively, so I can't see him being in my top 5, to be honest. Hopefully one day in the not too distant future, we can talk about Brant Clark being in the top 5, but clearly he's not that now. As for Drew Doughty, he's the best defenseman in LA Kings history. He's a future Hall of Famer. His number 8 is going to be retired. Maybe he gets a statue outside the arena. But right now, I really don't think that Drew Doughty is one of the Kings' top 5 players. Now, is he number 6? Yeah, probably. But to be honest, I really didn't consider him over anybody on this list, over Byfield or over Fiala. Now, I still think Drew can play. I still think he contributes. I still think he's an important part of the team. But I do feel like it is now time to start transitioning to Brant Clark. Is Drew Doughty a top pairing defenseman in the NHL? On a lot of teams, probably not, but he is on the Kings right now. I think he definitely is. Now, with Vladislav Gavrikov gone, there's no debate as far as who's the top pairing, even though Gavrikov and Anderson were great last year. And then when Doughty came back, he took his old position back, which I wasn't surprised at. You could certainly argue whether that was the right move or not, but Gabby's gone. Clark isn't ready on that right side. It's still Drew Doughty, but I am hopeful that for the team's sake and frankly for Drew's sake as well, we start to see some of his minutes and maybe even some of his responsibilities kind of pared back this coming season. Again, I think Drew Doughty is still important. I think he is still a contributor. He is definitely still a leader, and he's a guy who knows how to play in all the biggest situations. He's got great experience in his career. But is he a top 5 Kings player right now? I'm saying no. I'm saying no. So those are my top 5 LA Kings. Number 5, Quentin Byfield. Number 4, Kevin Fiala. Number 3, Adrien Kempe. Number 2, Darcy Kuemper. And number 1, Adrien Kempe. We will see where those guys end up ranked in the Locked On NHL's top 100 coming up in the near future. I will obviously update you guys on that, share with you where the Kings fit in as well. So, do you agree with my list? Do you agree with where the players are ranked? For you everydayers, those who listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, you know you have your chance to chime in with your thoughts with our weekly fan feedback show coming up at the end of the week. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say on this topic. If you want to send an email for the feedback show for today, what we talked about on today's show, or for anything else we've talked about, or anything that's on your mind, the email address lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. If you're watching on YouTube, we welcome your comments in the comment section. And we'd love for you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.